All right, welcome to this new podcast. So what I'm going to be going over here is why you still sound like a beginner even after years of jazz piano practice. Now, I've been there and I know exactly what it feels like. You've been practicing jazz for years. You know the scales, you know the chords, you know the tunes, but you still don't sound like the real thing. That is extremely frustrating, right? I know, I've been there. If this is hitting home for you already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button down below if you want more clarity like this in your jazz piano journey. Hi, my name is Brendan Lowe, and this is the Jazz Piano School podcast, where we take the confusion out of jazz and give you a clear path to grow with structure and confidence. You're putting in all the work, but something is still missing. Well, lucky for you, today I'm going to explain why that happens and how to finally break through it. Now, let me be very clear. This isn't about working harder or practicing more. It's about focusing on what actually matters for growth. So here's the truth. It's not your fault. Most jazz education skips over the very things that actually make jazz sound like jazz. Now, instead, you get overloaded with theory, scales, modes, and exercises that don't always connect to how real jazz is played. Does that sound familiar? Now, I talk to students all the time who say, Brendan, I've learned all my major and minor scales. I've studied chord symbols. I've even learned a bunch of tunes, but when I go to improvise, I freeze up. I don't sound like the records that I love. And I always say, you know what? That's not your fault. You've just been given the wrong starting point. Because jazz isn't a checklist of music theory topics. It's a language. And like any other language, it needs context, repetition, and feel to actually sound authentic. So you know what? Let's dig into what's really missing. Because there are three massive gaps most self-taught or stuck players experience. Number one, there's no guided framework. You're collecting tips like use approach notes or voice with ninths and 13ths, but you don't know how they connect. There's no structure, just a flood of information with no direction. Think of it like trying to learn a language by memorizing random vocabulary words without learning grammar or sentence structure. You're putting in all this effort, but it never really gels into something fluid. Reason number two, there's no feedback or reflection. You're really practicing in a vacuum, especially in this day and age. You might be spending hours each week at the keyboard without a mentor, without structure, or even a way to objectively assess your own sound. You're reinforcing the same exact habits, good or bad. Now, many of my students didn't realize that they were rushing their eighth notes or that their voicings lacked smooth voice leading until someone pointed it out. And once they saw it, the growth, their progress at jazz piano, it accelerated drastically. Reason number three, there's no feel development. No feel development. This is a huge one. Feel isn't just about swinging harder, as a lot of my teachers told me to do, and I never knew exactly what they were talking about. It's about learning the subtle micro timing, the phrasing, the articulation that breathes life into jazz. And this isn't developed by reading about it. It comes from deep listening, intentional imitation, and repetition. It's built when you internalize how Miles delays a note, or how Wynton Kelly comps with bounce and grace. Now, most people skip this. They want the big flashy theory, right? The shiny pearl. But the real sauce is in the rhythm, the time, the feel, and the phrasing. Let me give you a quick story. One of my students, their name is George, they've been learning jazz on their own for years. And he had taken a bunch of courses, he had subscribed to YouTube channels, and practiced every single day. Now, he could play the changes, but it just didn't feel alive, right? Can you relate to that? When we started working together in my mastermind, the first thing I told him was, we're not adding more. I don't want to add more. What we're going to do here is we're going to go deeper with what you already know. So we started with one phrase, just one simple phrase. We played it slow. We exaggerated the rhythm. We worked on articulation. We used it over multiple tunes. We played with the dynamics. We played with the delay and ghost notes. And week by week, he started to sound and feel like a professional jazz pianist. Now that's the power of mastering the feel, not just the notes, because the feel will trump notes every single time. So here's the real shift you need to make. You need to stop thinking of jazz as a bunch of disconnected concepts and start thinking of it as a progression, a skill tree. You need a clear, structured path that takes you from where you are right now to where you want to go, with actual steps along the way. Now, inside of Jazz Piano School, I've built that path. I literally guide students through 3 major tracks: solo piano, playing in a band, and improvisation. Each path has multiple levels with specific goals and an assessment test, so you always know what to work on and when. But it's actually more than that. We help students build awareness. You don't just play a lick. You learn where it came from and why you need to use it. You learn how to phrase it, when to use it, and how to make it your own. That's how you stop sounding like a beginner, even if you've been at this for years and years and years. And it's not about perfection. It really isn't. It's about consistent, intentional growth. That's how real players develop their sound. You really don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to do this alone. Inside the Jazz Piano School membership, you'll get full access to our structured course paths, live monthly coaching, practice plans, and a real community of students who are walking the same path as you. You'll finally have the structure and guidance that connects the dots and turns your hard work into real results. So go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of what we have to offer to get started, or download our free Jazz Piano Roadmap to get clarity on your next step. You've got the desire, you've put in the hours, now it's time to actually start sounding the way that you've always imagined and dreamed of. Thanks for listening. Again, my name is Brendan Lowe, and I'll see you next time. If you're ready to finally get some structure in your jazz piano practicing and see real results, now's the time to do so. Right now, you can join Jazz Piano School for just $37 a month, which is 50% off our regular public pricing. This is a limited time offer and it won't stay up forever. So if you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Just go to jazzpianoschool.com/discount37 or click the link in the show notes to get started today.